Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm John Hanson, joined by Mayor of Springfield, Jim Langfelder. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate the invite.
So first off, right off the bat, kind of a big story, big news coming from Business Insiders ranking Springfield as the #1 place to live post-pandemic. And I wanted to get your reaction to our ranking with that.
Well, anytime you can rank that high, I think that's the first time that I'm aware that Springfield received a #1 ranking, or it's been quite some time. So really it goes to the strength of our community, especially, it took a pandemic, but the reasons were strong. I think people were able to work remotely. It's our strength of our economy. With our medical community, I say it's second to none because of that great resource. And so it's really, I think people were compliant. It's thanks to the governor. I know people are kind of itching to get back and open things up, but it shows you the value of that because we can't lose sight of the future. And that's what this is all about. That's why we keep our social distancing, wear our masks to make sure that we make it through the pandemic as best as possible. And we've been rewarded to be one of the best places to live after the pandemic and through it. So we'll continue to move forward in that direction, but we do have strong resources to rebound quickly with regards to the economy as well.
I know that a lot of a lot of cities, around the nation are going to be reading that and they're going to be seeing us and saying, what are they doing or what's their secret for, getting through this successfully? And what would you say to another mayor who may be asking that question?
Well, everybody has the same valuable resource. It's our people. And really it's them being engaged, being committed to our community and want to make it a better place. And of course, we have a great history with regards to Abraham Lincoln. And, we went through the protests, everybody came together, understood our differences. We still have work and challenges to do, which we commit to doing so, meeting those head on and improving everybody's lives. And that's what it really comes down to is the individuals within our community to make that happen.
And as far as like our future, we still have a little ways to go with the pandemic, but as we move forward with this, what do you see the obstacles that you and, the aldermen are continuing to work on that are coming, that you're going to work on to make sure that this #1 spot is, is well deserved?
Well, it becomes, with regards to the employment will be a key aspect of it, your economic development. And so with the budget, the city's budget in particular, how do we tighten our belts? And we'll continue to do that. But moving forward with development, it's good that we do invest in projects, do invest in our community. We do have our own utility, which is on better financial strength. So we will look at expanding the fiber network that we have, the capacity of that. So it will attract additional technology to our area and really relying on the strengths of our community, like the healthcare system, like government, like the educational system, and moving forward in that positive manner.
You mentioned kind of the infrastructure and the expansion of technology. What plans do you have here to expand it? Because that's an ongoing growing sector. Even during the pandemic, that's a sector that's been growing. Do you have plans here? Are you any works to bring more technology jobs to Springfield?
Well, we have a great one with LRS. That's Levi Ray and Shoup, but that's a entity that could go global. They chose to invest here. They invested $20 million to expand their campus. So they have a lot of high-tech jobs. I think they're expanding up to at least 50 or more. But the other side of it is with Innovate Springfield and the entrepreneurial network there. With the city, we have our own fiber network and how we can move towards smart city, further develop our smart city status. And so we are re-upping or reinforcing that fiber loop, if you will, that really goes through the core of our downtown. So that can be a technology hub for the university, future university presence or growth of Innovate Springfield, and also other inner city areas like the east side, the medical area. And so those are key components because you have to have a strong inner city to be strong throughout your city. And that's what we intend to do, capitalizing on the strengths of our private sector as well as what we bring with our utility.
One of the questions that you mentioned a little bit yourself is the reopening. That report says that the unemployment rate here in Springfield was 3.9% prior to the pandemic, which was in line with the national average. What's your response to to people who are looking to reopen even further? I mean, I guess the big question, let me back up a little bit here, is that Why aren't we opening sooner? We're meeting all of the metrics according to IDPDH. Today would be day 14, which according to Dr. Fauci in Washington would be 14 days, which is what Washington has said. I know that the state of Illinois has said something different, but what is stopping you as a mayor from saying that we're going to open regardless of what the governor is saying?
Well, I think the real key is to make sure your entire community is safe. We do meet the regional metrics. I did talk to the governor's office about the importance to move to phase 4. Give us a reprieve and really take a look at it sooner if you can. But if you can't do that, how about opening up the restaurants to allow inside capacity or inside seating? And so I think they are looking at the metrics. What concerns them and all of us is with the reopening. We just started the outdoor seating, opening up retail to a greater level at the beginning of the month. Then we had the protests. So we did have some close contact that wasn't happening before. So really that watermark, if you will be the middle of June. And so if we don't see a spike happening or resurgence with the coronavirus, then I really truly believe the governor will take a look at that area as far as our region and make that determination whether to either move with phase 4 or hopefully at least allow capacity indoor seating for the restaurants. And it makes more sense to me go from 0 to 30% this month and then 50% or 60% in July instead of going from 0 to 50% in July, because they'll allow you time to assess and open up at a lower level, give the restaurants the economic relief that they need, and move forward in that direction.
Let's say that we get middle month and the governor doesn't say anything. Do you plan on doing anything at that point that would allow that to happen here?
No, I don't. I won't be doing that. I'm going to hold fast with that was my pledge, to hold fast with the governor's order. And I think everybody else should, because we were the only state that actually complied with the CDC and the president's recommendation when to open up states. So you fast forward to what's happened is other states that have opened up early, now they're seeing the resurgence of the coronavirus. I think Arizona is maxed out on their hospital beds, and you don't want that happening. What we're trying to do is prepare for the future as best as possible. And it's really incumbent upon all of us, even though as we reopen, and this is the other factor I'm sure the governor's considering, is are people being compliant? So it's important that the businesses are compliant. It's important that residents are compliant with the face covering order as much as possible when you're in close contact with others, because that will help keep the numbers down, because there's no vaccination yet. And we want to get to that point where we do have the vaccine and we don't have a spike in any type of cases.
One of the other questions that I had for you is, we've talked to business owners here in town, and they say certainly outdoor seating was that boost that they needed to keep their doors open. But even they say if this goes on like this, they won't be able to sustain their business much longer past this with the current model. What's your response to them who may be itching just because they have people on their payrolls, they have mortgages and businesses that they need to keep funded? What's your response to them that need that bigger influx of money coming to them?
Well, without a doubt, I've talked to restaurant owners and businesses that are in that bubble, and that's why we're trying to come forward with a loan package. We're working on the CDBG funds that we received, the Corona's impact funds, and creating a loan pool of up to $2.5 million. We hope to have that within next week to be able to offer that type of relief for individuals that are running out of money. And that'd be a interest-only payment at 3% through the end of the year for those that qualify, up to $25,000, and then some grant opportunities there. But it's the financial resources. So that's why I'll continue to explore upon the.
Welcome back. We apologize for those technical difficulties. We figured those out. But Mayor Langfelder, just to pick back up a little bit, we were talking a little bit about, your response to business owners and that say that they need to open to keep their doors open and keep their families fed.
Yeah, on that, we're doing what we can. I think the important thing is, the importance of supporting one another. We understand the difficulties they're in. And so, from that standpoint, we'll have a loan pool of funds available, hopefully next week, up to $2.5 million. So if there's ever questions that they're, we might be able to find the financial means either through the state or locally or through the banking institutions. But I believe relief is on its way with regards to those pool of funds. But the other aspect of it is continually to push to allow the restaurants to open at a lower capacity at a minimum in June, and then give them, at least some immediate relief, and then move towards July, because we will meet those metrics and move forward with the opening up to, I think it's 50 individuals in a gathering at that point in time.
Now, so one of the questions I have, though, the grant's obviously helpful. Any help, to keep their families fed, keep their employees' families fed. But at the same time, when you get down the road, they're taking out a loan that is more debt on top of what they already owe. What do you have to say to, them when because that's a big concern when we could say, yes, here's some money, but it's more debt.
Yeah, actually, we're working with the banks, and, they're in a tough situation, but there might be a way to restructure some of that debt on the personal paycheck protection program. On that, that will be a forgivable loan that they wouldn't have to repay if it's used for its intended purposes to cover the cost of the employees. What we would be offering would be anything they would need with regards to the operations, and it'd just be 3% interest-only payments through the end of the year is how that particular loan is structured. Up to $25,000, and it's to help them get through the gap until they're able to open up at a better capacity to help with their cash flow needs. So it would be an opportunity to, maybe they do have high interest rate loans that they could possibly refinance and move in that direction as well, because we are going into a low interest rate environment that we've never seen like no other. And so you'll have to look at all the different opportunities from the financial aspect that could be brought to the table, and hopefully they're working with the bank, but if not, they can always call the city, and we can help work them through using our Justin Peterson consultants and moving in that direction. So they don't know where to turn, they can call 789-2200. That's the mayor's office, but Office of Economic Development would be willing to help them out and see what other opportunities are there to help.
One of the things that one of our viewers on Facebook brought up is that's been a big concern for a lot of people is the governor has been saying, that we need to stay home, we need to wear masks, and yet we see him going to Wisconsin, we see him going to Florida, we see his family traveling around. And so when we have these guidelines, there's just, that juxtaposition that people are seeing. What's your response to people that are concerned that when they see the governor telling them to do one thing, but then appear to see him do something else? What's your response to that?
Well, I haven't followed him that closely with regards to it. I've heard stories about that, but that'd be for him to answer. I think in the Florida situation, I think his family was down there, and then that's when before the stay-at-home order. So once that's in place, then that shows a different dynamic. And with the fluidity of the coronavirus, every day is different. And what's frustrating for all of us is the consistency, especially when, you look at it right now. Now you can have outdoor seating where 6 people can sit at a table, but then you can't have you can't have a larger gathering. So I could be in a restaurant that could theoretically have up to 100 seats outside, but then I can't have any type of outdoor activity like the Levitt concert series, where you could keep that social distance of more than 50 people. So that's the frustration. I think that's where people draw those correlations, and that's where the disconnect is. But we're trying to do our best, keeping everybody safe. And what I always do is, we need to worry about ourselves and our neighbors, and how do we become stronger together. And thankfully in Springfield, people have risen to the level of expectation. And I think that's why we were rewarded through the Business Insider with that #1 rating as far as what's the best city to live in the country post-coronavirus. And Springfield was one of those. I believe that had something to do with it as well.
One of the questions that I have as well, we've talked a little bit about this before, and I want to kind of bring it up. I live down the street from a park, and my kids want to go play. And I know that you've said prior that, that's a different department, but I'm wondering if, if you've been able to talk to that department at all, or if there are any plans when kids can return back. I mean, it's kind of eerie to have like this almost apocalyptic world where you look at a playground and there's caution tape all over everything and no children allowed to play on it. Do you know if there's any plans in the near future, maybe with Phase 4, that would allow children to utilize the playgrounds that are built around the city?
Yeah, phase 4, I would imagine, and that's the Park District. It's a different governing body
Yeah.
with regards to that. So with that, I think once they do open, and I believe they'll take a look at that. I believe they're doing that now. That's where they open up golf sooner than we anticipated and some other activities. They'll look at that. But if I'm a parent and once they do, you want to make sure you bring your Clorox wipes or whatever, because it's all about hand contact. Keeping your child's hands clean, things of that nature. I have a granddaughter that I've held her maybe twice, because I feel that you should go. For myself, I come in contact with others, and I just don't want to take that chance of passing anything along. And it's that invisible, frustrating germ that we don't know where it is. But the best way to make sure that we're keeping our young ones safe is make sure we do that good hygiene. So even when they do open, we should take those Clorox wipes. Or when you go out to dinner, I just went to lunch at the Alamo. As a matter of fact, you take Clorox wipes and wipe off the table, wipe your hands off before and after you leave, things of that nature. And that needs to continue with as you go through your day-to-day activities.
I'm going to flip the coin a little bit on you here. And my question then goes a little bit back on us. As we look at other states and other communities, Arizona, 88% of their hospitals, that they're at 88% of their capacity. So they only have 20, or not even that, they only have 18% of their hospital capacity left. And Springfield is a giant hub for medical needs. Do you feel that maybe this is moving too quickly when we see these other cases, these other communities around the nation that are seeing this resurgence? Do you think that, Illinois is moving too fast?
I don't believe so. And the main reason is I think Arizona was kind of, I'm not sure if they closed down like we had with the stay-at-home order. So they're at a different level, I believe, when they actually reopened. But for us, we are a regional provider of healthcare services. So it's just not Sangamon County driving our metrics. It's really driven by, Memorial Health Services, HSHS, St. John's, SIU, School of Medicine, Springfield Clinic. We are a regional provider of healthcare. So there's like 7 counties that rely on our health services. So that is a dynamic that is of concern. But right now we're well below the bar. I think we have 6% positive cases. But we're below that if you subtract out the recovery cases and tragically the deaths. We're like well below 2%. And so there's spaces available, and that's one of the metrics in order to move to phase 4. So we're in good shape, but it is incumbent upon all of us as we move along, especially when we go back, children go back to school, things of that nature. We have to remember to keep our social distance, wear the face coverings, and the hand washing. We can't forget that, because it's all transmitted by, bodily contact or surface contact. So it's important to keep up those good practices.
Now, I know that one of the more recent press conferences with the mayor's office and with IDPH officials, they mentioned that 44% of the cases in Illinois and the deaths are those in retirement homes. Do you know how our retirement homes in our community are doing?
Well, knock on wood, they've done really well. We had the incident in Sherman, which was the villas, and that was the one with the most spikes. But there's some others that have popped up, but thankfully with the great care within the facility, they've been able to take care of it or contain the virus. Crisis really had things up and under Jackie Newman as the leader there, really being proactive and putting precautionary measures in place well before things started surging here locally. And that's really proven to be successful in keeping everybody safe as we move forward through this pandemic.
I know that one of the things, that as I drove to work today, I drive by Knights Action Park, and the lazy river is filling up. They've announced that they do have plans to open on June 26th. As we go forward, are you working with them on any plans to keep people safe that do decide to go to the water park this summer?
Well, I haven't personally talked to Doug Knight, but he's a locally owned business owner. The Knights family's been around forever, and with that, it's just like any business. I think with any business, they're going to take pride in take some responsibility to opening up, because the last thing you want as a business owner, you don't want someone catching the coronavirus at your business, because that sends a negative connotation. It'll damage your business the health of your business from visiting people patronizing you. So I'm sure he'll take that into consideration. But the one thing is the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance. That's what we participate in. They did put out recently, I think you covered it, All for You process where businesses can sign up and they can show their decal saying, that they show that they are following the CDC recommendations as much as possible. And then people that are patronizing businesses, they can look for that, that decal, if you will, that shows that they are looking after your welfare as you're trying to get back into the normal ways of visiting others and actually supporting local businesses, which we really want everybody to get back to that stage in a safe manner.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final comments before we let you go back to your regular duties?
Well, the one thing I'd like to say is, for the media, we really appreciate you giving the factual coverage, covering all sides of it, because this is a fluid pandemic that we're in. Nobody knows what tomorrow's will bring, but it's incumbent upon all of us to really look after the welfare of one another. And I think we've risen to the occasion, and that was proven in the #1 status for Springfield, Illinois. And today, and working together, we'll continue to move forward in a positive manner. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayor Langfelder. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for joining us. If you'd like to ask us any more questions that we can bring up with the mayor in these great interviews, you can email those directly to me, jbhansen, that's HANSEN, at sbgtv.com. Thanks for joining us.